From London is Tufail Hussain, who's the Deputy Director of the humanitarian organization Islamic Relief UK. Thank you very much for being with us. Nearly 3 million people live in Idlib. Just how disastrous would an all-out government offensive be there?
It's an absolute devastating situation on the ground. The humanitarian situation on the ground is, as you said, 3 million people, who 1.5 million of these people are already displaced. Some of them have moved up to 5 to 7 times already, and Idlib really is the last hope for these people. There's nowhere for them to go. They've seen untold humanitarian catastrophes throughout these 7 years. Of that 1.5 million, of that 3 million, around 1 million are women and children. And one of our workers on the ground today was interviewing a family, and they gave this desperate account, and it's a hopeless situation for them. You got to remember, these people for 7 years have seen nothing but hell and war, and this family went on record to say that Idlib is our last hope. We're preparing to die, and so there's nowhere for them to escape. The border to Turkey has been sealed, and everyone is panicking, is in a sheer state of panic at this moment in time in Idlib.
As you say, the majority of the people who live there now are evacuees from other areas that have been taken over by the Syrian government. What sort of conditions are they in right now in Idlib? What sort of help are they getting, if any at all?
Well, again, they're going into camps which are desperately overcrowded. There's no electricity. There is a dire need of food. There's no sewage works, and people are desperately trying to find shelter. I mean, people are living out virtually on the streets, and that's the situation there at the moment inside Idlib. It's acutely desperate. Aid organizations don't have enough aid to meet the need of the people there inside Idlib and across Syria.
Now, another fact that Syrian government forces and their allies have been pointing to is that the fact that Idlib has a high concentration of foreign fighters, and in particular the highest number of Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra fighters, in addition to the civilians who live there. And Iran's foreign minister has just said that their efforts right now are focused on making Idlib empty of what he called terrorists with the least humanitarian chaos. Is that feasible? Can they go after these fighters without targeting the civilians as well?
Over the last 7 years, we've seen civilians and civilian infrastructure targeted. We've seen, today there was a mosque and a school that was hit. 15 people died in today's bombing. 14 of them, women and children. Time and time again, we've seen hospitals being targeted. It's almost as if there is, an initial sort of barrage of bombing of these civilian points, civilian centers, to try and sort of spread fear throughout the population inside Syria. There are 3 million, as you said, there are 3 million people. 1.5 of those are already displaced. A majority of these are innocent civilians, and they have nowhere to go. They are in desperate need, and we call on all parties to the war to respect humanitarian laws, international humanitarian rights laws, to try and minimize, to try and avoid civilian casualties. And unfortunately, time and time again in the last 7 years, we've seen hundreds of thousands of people that have died as a result of this brutal war in Syria.
Thank you so very much for talking to us. Tufail Hussain, Deputy Director of Islamic Relief UK, joining us there from London. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The Taliban says the founder of a prominent armed group in Afghanistan has died after a long